Good evening. My name is Christy Wymuth, and I'm a student at William Wood University in course EDU 760, Program Evaluation and Strategic Plan. As part of our assignment to complete this class, we are pretending to be a superintendent in a Board of Education strategic planning presentation. So I'm a new superintendent of a school district, and one of my first tasks is to develop a strategic planning process that's going to guide the district in improving student achievement. So my goal in this presentation is to educate the Board of Education on a strategic planning model that I believe will improve achievement across the district. So let's get started. So, good evening. Welcome to the board meeting this evening. I'd like to present to you today a presentation I've created on improving student achievement through a strategic planning process. So let's go ahead and get started. There are 3 steps to this strategic planning process. Step 1 is development. So doing the research, things we need to do, developing strategies, things like that we can employ for this process. And then also step 2 is our deployment. In other words, actually deploying it to see if it's going to work, to see how we're doing with it, to actually try to increase that student achievement. And then step 3 finally is the assessment. How did we do? How did the plan that we came up with, the strategies, the techniques, so forth, how is that doing, to see if it's meeting our goals and objectives and to see if we need to make any modifying changes. So to get started, we're going to form a core planning team. And our core planning team is actually many people that are already in this room this evening. So it would be me as the superintendent, obviously. We would then follow up with some of our assistant superintendents. We would have our assistant superintendent for academic services, Dr. Bridewell, our assistant superintendent for quality and student services, which is Dr. Dial. We would have Dr. Kelly as our assistant superintendent for business and technology, Dr. Dillon for human resources, Dr. Marcus Fryatt is our new chief operating officer, as you know, and Dr. Josh Peters, our director of assessment. We would also include our director of access, inclusion, and family engagement, Dr. Dion, and our chief communication officer would be Mrs. Wachel, who will also assist us on this team. The first thing we would do as part of the strategic planning process is to complete an environmental scan. This would be driven by our CPT, core planning team, with a comprehensive analysis approach, and it will be conducted over 4 weeks. We feel like the 4 weeks would be needed for us to be able to do a thorough examination of the environment, internal, external factors that could affect our implementation of this planning process. Our CPT members would be assigned specific research areas to look at in the external and internal environment. We'd have regular progress meetings, and we would synthesize the findings to communicate to our stakeholders. So part of that environmental scan would be for us to determine any potential or possible trends or events that could influence the direction or sustainability of this plan over time. So we have internal factors and we have external factors. Some of these factors I've identified here on this slide, as you can see. For internal, it would be academic performance data. So how have we been doing on that MAP testing, on the NWA test that we take to predict the achievement levels? What factors of the testing environment could potentially influence the direction or the stability of this plan. Student demographic trends. We all know that this has changed in our district quite a bit lately, and we want to make sure that we're representing all students throughout this planning process so that we can achieve all students to learn and not just some students. Our staff capacity and development needs. What kind of PD do they need? What do they need to be successful leaders for this plan? And resource allocation analysis. Dr. Kelly will help us a lot with this to determine what kind of resources do we need, or can we reclassify some of our current resources to put towards things that we find will be helpful for this academic achievement increase. And our current programs and services. What are we doing right now that could be in a support of this planning, or what do we need to maybe add? External factors would be, again, we have demographics, thinking about our community members, thinking about, our economic trends. So thinking about how is our community financially, how is our community and supporting. Are they a supportive community? Are they not a supportive community? Things like that. Technology trends. Do we have the right technology tools that we would need for this to be successful? What other technology trends are out there that we also might need to consider before they could potentially create an obstacle for us? Analysis of our neighborhood school districts. So those for us would be North Kansas City, Liberty, Platte County. Those three would be the main ones that we would want to focus on since they are all Northland schools, and we are in between. We're probably a medium-sized district compared to those other districts. Then we would create a stakeholder survey. We would use, again, the CPT team would drive that. It would be a forced choice survey for all stakeholders, and we would have approximately 15 to 20 questions on this survey. We would first start with our pilot test to make sure we have all the right questions that we want to ask, make sure that it's representing various stakeholder groups, and then we'll revise that as needed before we deploy that. We will use a stratified sampling approach to ensure our representation participation is adequate and to be able to be for this survey to be reliable, I should say. Students that are in grades 5th through 12th will participate, guardians, Board of Education members, our community members, administrators, and this would be district level and building level administrators, and then our teachers and support staff. Another thing about the stakeholder survey is we would promote that through the website, through online emails, those social media platforms. We would also determine how many surveys need to be completed to achieve a 95% confidence level with a 2 to 3% margin of error. This has been recommended by Robert Ewing, and we'd like to support that since that is a research foundation that this is a great achievement margin. A 95% confidence level is recommended because the survey data is used to identify so many critical priorities that become the focus of the strategic plan. Our internal audit process we would do, our timeline would be about 6 weeks. We would use the Baldrige Excellence Areas. This is a framework that's a management model designed to help organizations such as the Park Hill School District improve performance and achieve sustainable success. It provides a structured approach to assessing organizational strengths and weaknesses. It identifies areas for improvement, and it fosters a culture of continuous learning and innovation. As many of you know, the Park Hill School District is a Quality Texas Foundation Regional Program highest level of quality award winner. And this award recognizes organizations based on best business practices following the National Malcolm Baldrige criteria for performance excellence. This framework is divided up into 7 categories, and each core planning team member will lead an assessment of 1 to 2 Baldrige areas with another CPT or core planning team member. They will use standardized rubrics and evident collection protocols to ensure the consistent evaluation. So the first one would be leadership. This would be our governance and social responsibility, our strategy, planning and implementation, our customers, our students and stakeholder focused, measurement, analysis, and knowledge well management, workforce, staff engagement and development, operations, work process and effectiveness, and our results, student learning outcomes. So then the core planning team will synthesize all the data sources to identify the key themes, priorities, and strategic opportunities for student achievement improvement. So there would be a clear identification of our strengths, our improvement opportunities, and our strategic priorities that will inform our mission, vision, and goal development. This would be a 4 weeks and a comprehensive data analysis report with prioritized strategic recommendations will be completed at the end. So we would use both quantitative and qualitative data. Our quantitative data would be statistical analysis of our survey data, of course, Our performance trend analysis, so how have we done with this over time for our student academic achievement. We would use comparative benchmarking data and a gap analysis identification. So which students are in that gap? Which ones do we probably need to employ some multi-tiered support systems in place to help them also be successful? Qualitative data would be our environmental scan information. So at this time, we are doing a forced choice survey. However, we also have discussed the possibility of employing a environmental scan kind of survey, or not survey, kind of a questionnaire, focus groups, things like that. Our Baldr's assessment findings would be used, and our stakeholder interview synthesis. So, as we all know, we are fortunate in this district that we already have a mission, vision, and core values already identified for the Park Hill School District. At this time, we don't see a need to change our mission, vision, or core values because we feel that they already fit this particular system that we're trying to make some changes with, or decide if it's actually doing the right job. So our mission is building successful futures, each student, every day. So as I just said, this would qualify as a good mission statement because it does include all of our students, including GAP students, not just some students. Our vision is through the expertise of an engaged staff, the Park Hill School District provides a relevant education and a safe, caring environment to prepare each student for success in life. I feel like this is very relevant because we do have to have an engaged staff. We do have to have members that are teachers, staff members that care, number one, about children, care about their success, and also care about doing what they can to make positive impacts that will further our students' education so that they could be successful in their life. Obviously, we also care about a safe, caring environment because if a student is not safe, they don't feel safe, they don't feel like they're cared for or loved, then they're not going to learn from us. So that is something that we feel our vision statement is still relevant for this system evaluation. And core values: visionary leadership, integrity, student focus, high expectations, continuous improvement, and equity. And the core values is something that we're also going to be talking about as a CPT. We want to make sure that our expectations are there, our rigor is there for our course content. Because without that, are we just doing surface level information that's actually hindering our student academic performance? So throughout this process, we would also create student learning targets and strategies to be successful with this. So we would develop them based on the data that is provided. So we would also do a SWOT analysis, which is our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats for this. Also, if I could back up and say that our student learning targets help the Board of Education members and our CPT understand how district stakeholders define a quality education in our community. The student learning targets would also describe in measurable terms what stakeholders want students to be able to know and do when they graduate from our district. So the SWOT analysis, like I mentioned, our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats would be completed, along with our strategy maps that we will be used for monitoring. This will be a visual representation of cause and effect relationships. It'll provide a clear linkage between strategies and learning targets, our performance indicators for each strategic initiative, and regular monitoring and adjustment protocols as needed. So developing strategies. To accept or reject a strategy, our core planning team has to answer these questions, and these are derived from Robert Ewing's book entitled Stakeholder-Driven Strategic Planning and Education. This is a research-based process, and so we would like to follow that to help ensure that we're successful with this. So the 3 questions that would need to be answered are: what strategy or strategies will successfully address the various strategic plan challenges, goals, targets, the performance review opportunities for improvement, and the SWOT analysis results? Second one would be, do we have the resources, skill, and ability, or can we develop those resource skills and abilities to fully deploy this strategy? And if we fully deploy this strategy, sorry about that, if we fully deploy this strategy, will it be successful? So the second part of this process is step 2, which is our deployment of it. So this would be done with communication through our core planning team, who would also primarily lead this. It would have to be Board of Education approved. We'd have to make sure that all of our department is integrated with this, so all departments are knowledgeable on this process, because it doesn't just take the academic team, it's going to take all departments to be on board with this. So meaning our safety and security department needs to understand what students need to feel safe in the school. We would also need for all of our building level staff to be included in this. So this would be our teachers, our administrators, of course, our staff members, so our teachers' assistants, any other pairs that we may have that would be helpful in promoting this. So there's different success factors for the deployment of this that we feel are needed in order to help this be a success. So the first one is our leadership commitment. So this needs to be a visible support from the board and administration in order for this to have the best chance of being successful. And we also need our stakeholder engagement, because the stakeholder engagement is a meaning and participation from all of our groups, not just some of the groups. So if we just decide, oh, this is what we want to do as building shift leaders, and then implement into our building, but yet we don't have all of our stakeholders, our board, our district level leaders, community, things like that, then it will not have the best chance for success. We feel also that it needs to be a data-driven decision, this to make sure that it's evidence-based planning and implementation, and that there's always a continuous improvement progress, with this plan. So regular monitoring and adjusting as needed. We would need to also have staff professional development. So not just development to check a box, but which staff professional development do we need so that they can be supportive with our academic achievement level increase that we're trying to drive. Stakeholder updates, of course, like you would want to know, how are we doing with this? What's our progress? Instead of waiting till the very end, we would also want to make sure that we are giving updates throughout each stage of this strategic plan. So our development, our deployment, and then our final one, which is assessment, we'll talk about in just a minute. We also need to make sure we're celebrating these events, because even the small milestones, because sometimes we focus on, oh, is the student proficient or advanced? But how about if we just decided on, you know what, let's just grow each student. So maybe they're below basic, but they're not quite ready to be, or they don't have the knowledge they need to be proficient. But if we can grow them from below basic to basic, or even just improve some of their overall score, then that would also show that we are achieving academic success. And data dashboards. We would have these data dashboards we feel like are important for our stakeholders to be able to see the progress that we're making throughout it. Finally, the last step in our strategic planning process would be the assessment. So how did this project work? How did this plan go? Do we need to make any changes? Did we need to go back and revise, maybe add some things, delete some things, just change some things to make it more successful? So the access to assess success and challenges, again, our CPT would be leading that. We would have a balanced scorecard that would be helpful. A balanced scorecard would ensure that everyone in our district understands the amount of progress that needs to be accomplished in order for the mission, vision, and strategic plans, strategic goals to be achieved. It also provides a record of improvement trends that gives not only you as the Board of Education and our CPT data that they need to make decisions about how well strategies and tactics are working and if adjustments are needed. Record of improvement trends, this would be something that we feel like is important to be able to recognize the improvements that are being made instead of just the overall success of the actual program. So how will we communicate this? Communication is going to be key also in this process because we want all of our stakeholders to believe in this strategic plan and to be able to support it. So again, this would be led by our CPT. It would be fully transparent, even if we don't have some information that is showing the growth that we're looking for, we still need to be transparent with that communication because it's obviously something else we need to be considering that could also be coming from suggestions, advice from our stakeholders. So we want to be fully transparent with this progress. We're not going to be successful right out of the gate. We know that, and I feel like if we are setting that goal to be successful in 3 weeks, then that's setting us up for failure. So we need to understand that this is a process and not just an overnight change. We would also communicate this with the public through our website. Our website does get excellent traffic, and our community seems to go there for information. It's kind of their dashboard of where they can find things. We'll do email blasts for families with progress updates, and as you all know too, we are just now implementing Parent Square, so this will make it a little bit easier for us to actually communicate with our stakeholders, especially our families, to be able to provide them with any communication needed throughout the process. So that is my presentation this tonight that again talks about the strategic planning process to improve our academic student achievement. I'll take any questions at this time, and thank you for your time.